Greetings, everyone. My name is Clayton Thomas. I'm the founder of the Root brand. And we're going to take a couple minutes. We're going to talk about zeolite products and comparisons and CleanSlate and its process and its formula, what makes it unique, but also for the first time looking at some imagery that has been provided by an independent research scientist. I can say Miss Birdie Valdez. Birdie is in Texas. She works at an independent research science lab that analyzes different fluids and such. And she's completely independently of Root and really any of the other companies that she acquired products from. As a consumer herself, she was looking at getting into the zeolite space to use some products for herself. And she, having access to analytical chemistry equipment, did some analysis of her own because she wanted to see if the claims made fit the actual science. So we're going to look at a comparison of CleanSlate and some other products in the markets, a couple of which don't have the names on them. And I don't know which one is which, but we'll touch on that a little bit. But first, I want to hit on CleanSlate because so many people ask the question about, is CleanSlate a zeolite product, right? And there's a lot of noise in the, I'll say, the supplement space for the category, right? And we'll look at some of these products. You have Clear TRS and PureBody PBX, and there's a product from Zoi Global, and there's CleanSlate, and there's Vitality, and there's a multitude of other zeolite solutions that are in the market for retail purchase. But it's interesting that many of the products that are in the market are sold through multi-level marketing. And it's done so, one, because of the margins that they can make on them, but also many of these products actually don't stand up to scrutiny. So when sold through this multi-level marketing channel, they can feed on the promotion of individuals and looking to make a little bit of money on selling a product versus actually having a product that has a high level of efficacy that can stand up in a retail environment where consumers are going to make a purchase based on quality and outcomes, which is really the entire purpose of the creation of CleanSlate in the first place with what Christina has created. So first, what we're going to look at is a couple things that I've talked about a lot that people mention, but I'm actually going to show you. And the question arises, as I mentioned, is quite often, is CleanSlate a zeolite product? The answer is no, because if you look at the label, and in the United States, the label will say clinoptilolite as an other ingredient. In Europe, it will say silicon dioxide, and we're going to consolidate all of this to state silicon dioxide. But we can go through this as an explanation so you understand what the starting point is. But this is the key with chemistry and process, right? If you start with a substance, and we'll say clinoptilolite. Clinoptilolite is a sodium aluminosilicate, right? So it has this amazing structure, this crystalline structure that is sodium, alumina, and silicate. Silica being the primary building block. But if you remember middle school chemistry, right? That if you take a substance or you take a compound, which you could say this crystal is, right? Because it's a combination of ingredients to create this structure. And if you process said substance to create something new, or in this instance, to break it apart, you no longer have the chemical structure of the original substance. You might have the consistency or the constituency of what that substance was primarily made up of, right? So if you have this amazing little crystal, the sodium aluminosilicate that makes up clinoptilolite, and you process it and you break it apart into fragments, those fragments are no longer going to be recognized as clinoptilolite. They're going to be recognized as what the primary component of that zeolite was when it's broken up, because you're actually creating a different structure, a new structure. That's what the process is, and that's why this is really important. What we do with CleanSlate is take that another couple steps, because Christina not only took the crystal, figured out how to break it apart, but then adding the trace minerals, adding the vitamin C, the ascorbic acid, creates this new structure. So what that structure is what's on the label. So we're going to look at two documents first, two images that I'll share, one with a little explanation to give you an overview of what this product starts with. Then we're going to look at the LOA, or sorry, the COA, the Certificate of Authenticity of the raw that we use to create CleanSlate. So you can see, okay, this is what we start with. So let's get into that. And once you get an idea of what we start with and what we're working with, then we can look at some of the imagery. So here we go. Bear with me as I share my screen. And do we want comparison, zeolite solution? We'll go with this one initially. So I think this is maybe this is not the one I wanted. Hold on here. This is not the one I wanted. Like I said, bear with me for editing. We'll get rid of that one. We don't need that one. That was answering some questions on CleanSlate and claims that people make because they've been so profound. Preview the comparison zeolite solution. There we go. So we'll come here and we will look at the first comparison. It's not that one either. Let me find it here. I have to get to the document so I can see it. That's not it. That's not it. Where did it go? Bear with me here as I go through a multitude of documents, because I need to see the same thing that we're discussing here. There we go. Now I can see the same thing. So you can see this. This is the real quick overview. And this was a letter that I got from our manufacturing partners just to outline the process that we use to make the solution for CleanSlate derived from clinoptilolite. And what's important with this is, one, see if we can highlight, if I highlight this properly, is here, the source is one of the purest deposits known in the world and happens to be US based. So as we touch on with all ingredients, sourcing is everything. You want to use the highest quality ingredients possible. And if you do so, then you can create better outcomes, right? Because if you use a really poor grade of clinoptilolite, right? And this is one thing that zeolite product manufacturers actually don't discuss much. They talk about the benefits of clinoptilolite, but they don't talk about where their source is in the quality of clinoptilolite that they're getting. And you can see just the couple points here. That it's safe for consumption up to 2% of body weight in animal feed. So when you look at how much clinoptilolite, the fragments that are in CleanSlate and only taking a couple drops, the safety for babies all the way through geriatrics is very safe based on what's known of safety for being generally recognized safe as a food additive for consumption of this crystal or this mineral. But we use a patent pending process that includes thermal shock treatment with pasteurization, food grade acid treatment, sonication, filtration, second pasteurization, and additional ingredients being added, and a proprietary magnetic polarization process. Was that long enough for you? It's not an acid wash that every other company talks about. They're like, oh, we've been doing this for a long time. And what's important to know is that all of the other products that I know of, some of which we'll look at, they all use the same old process that was created by Harvey Kaufman, or they use a derivative of that process that was taken from Harvey Kaufman. People that have done that, I won't name names right now, but a lot of the products we're going to look at actually use the same process or a little bit of a tweak that just uses an acid wash to treat the clinoptilolite. And they talk about it being unique and such. It's not really unique, but we're going to look at that process, because if you use a high amount of acid with this amazing little crystal, you actually end up destroying a lot of the unique benefits of this crystal, which we do a lot to talk about, which is why you see silicon dioxide on the label and not clinoptilolite, because of this aspect. Let's look at picture number 2. As we pull this up here, I need to go here real quick. We need to pull up the image of this. And we will go back here. Bear with me, because we're doing this as we touch on. So we're going to share this image. So this is the certificate of authenticity for the raw ingredient that we use for our sourced clinoptilolite. And a couple of things to look at here. So this is the vendor specs from the COA. You can see high purity, 97% clinoptilolite. This is what's so crucial. 97% pure clinoptilolite, right? You can see here, general chemical formula, sodium aluminosilicate, right? Clinoptilolite content, 97%. It's 3% bentonite, which is, you could argue, the second best option, as a clay for detoxification. That is the class of zeolites. It's bentonite, clinoptilolite, quartz, hewlandite, mordandite, asbestos. Missing a few. I think there's 84 in the class or so. But it's 97% pure clino, 3% bentonite. But the important thing to look at here is the typical chemical analysis. So we want to look at how much of each one of these components of the sodium aluminosilicate consists in the structure that we're working with. What does your raw look like, right? So the biggest one, so the most abundant of these little molecular makeup components of our raw. Now, this is important. This is not everyone's clinoptilolite, right? And this is why it is so important to start with quality, and why Christina is so uncompromising in quality, because quality makes a difference, right? You can get ultra purified water to drink, and you know that it's going to be really, really good for you because it's been purified, and maybe you polarize it and you do a lot of other key little tweaks to it to make really good structured water that's really healthy for you. Or we can go outside in the puddle and scoop up some water that's in a puddle in the parking lot that comes from the rain that just poured here in Nashville. And we can take a cup of that water and we can drink that as well. That's glyphosate loaded with other environmental toxins that have rained down from the geoengineering, that's loaded with whatever's been in the parking lot, with some gasoline, with some oil, with rubber residues, whatever else. Both are water, right? You can consume both of them, but the quality is what is most important. So when you look at this type of analysis, or when you're watching this video and you want to understand what makes CleanSlate unique, this is the starting point. 66% silica. This is the crucial component. 66% of the structure of this amazing crystal that we work with is silica. So what does that make when you process it properly, going back to the process that we use to make this? It creates a massive amount of bioavailable silica. Is it clinoptilolite anymore? Not when you break it apart. That's what we start with the raw, right? That's our raw ingredient, but we process it into something new and unique. And then we take that amazing little structure and we combine it with the trace minerals, with the ascorbic acid, and then we polarize it. So what is it? Is it a zeolite product? No, we start with clinoptilolite as a raw. We start with trace minerals. We start with ascorbic acid. Through this amazing little process that she's created, creates this new superstructure, something that's not been done before, with the highest quality of clinoptilolite available. I was talking with one of my colleagues about this a while ago that sells the powder of clinoptilolite. And, I told him, I said, look, we've got the purest source available for clino. And I've known him for 10 years or so. He's like, well, I use the best source of clinoptilolite. I'm like, great. What's the purity of the clino that you get in the powder? He said, 93%. I'm like, that's pretty good. He's like, well, what's yours? I'm like, 97. And his comment was, well, that's better. It's true. Makes sense, right? More purity, better quality. So you have the purest source of clino available with the highest concentration of silica. And why is that silica important? Well, we're going to pull up this study. Really quickly as we talk, because I wasn't planning on adding this, but we'll use this as the reference really quickly as we talk here. And why do you want to use the highest quality silica? Well, this is why. So when you talk about orthosilicic acid, and this was published back in 2013 with Doctors Pavlich. I have to give credit to Sandra, to Dr. Sandra and Dr. Kresmir for their research in clinoptilolite. They're two amazing people. But you look at the biological and therapeutic effects of orthosilicic acid and some orthosilicic acid releasing compounds. We're going to look at this orthosilicic acid releasing compound really quickly, right? We're going to just scan this and go through some quick imagery. So silica is the most abundant element present in the Earth's crust besides oxygen. It's also the most important building block, right? The roles of silica remain unknown. Why are they unknown? Well, maybe they've been suppressed from us because of their ability. But orthosilicic acid is a major form of bioavailable silica for both humans and animals. It's not been given adequate attention so far. All right. When we look at the benefits for bone mineralization, collagen synthesis, skin, hair, nail health, atherosclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, immune system enhancement, and addressing some other disorders and pharmacological effects besides some of the other amazing benefits. So when we go down here, we look at the best bioavailable forms. We see zeolites. So what's important is here, the most unusual orthosilicic acid releasing agents are certain types of zeolites, a class of aluminosilicates, well described in their cation exchange properties, which we know clinoptilolite is very beneficial for. But they might be attributable in releasing orthosilicic acid. So what's important is can you take nature's most abundant bioavailable source of orthosilicic acid, this amazing crystal? Now let's look at some of the amazing little structures, right? There's orthosilicic acid. Here is your clinoptilolite structure, this amazing honeycomb structure. We get into, and you can see many images of clino in conversation. What you don't hear people talk about is the bioavailable silica, because they have no clue, one, over how to use it. They destroy it in their process, and they really don't have any scientific backgrounds to truly understand the different pathways of benefit that you can get from this amazing crystalline structure with clinoptilolite, because you have to use the highest quality ingredients. So we go through some of the science, but we'll touch on some of the key benefits of orthosilicic acid releasing compounds. What you get, you can see benefits in osteoporosis. Why? Because you can have the remineralization of bone. Why is this important? Because lead actually displaces calcium and such in the bone. So you see that lead starts to leach out of women in their mid 40s to 50s, which is actually what you see with osteoporosis. It's what you see with brain fog. It's what you see with hormonal issues that is diagnosed as menopause. It's not, it's just lead toxicity. So the silica can actually help to remineralize bone. We've actually seen that in some results in people. You see improvements in hair and skin and nails. Why? Because this bioavailable silica actually is the primary building block for collagen. You want more collagen in your life? Actually give your body the precursors it needs to produce it. Don't take a lot of collagen supplements without providing the silica. And there's something forthcoming to coincide with CleanSlate when it comes to this. And then you can look at the science on zeolites as a source of orthosilicic acid, which gets into the science of why this stuff is so amazing. So you can see, oh, well, it can help with diabetes. It's antimicrobial. It has anti-tumor properties. It's a contrast in magnetic resonance. Hold on a second. You know why? Because it'll hold on to radioactive isotopes like gadolinium. So if you've ever had a dye contrast MRI, you need to be using this to remove the gadolinium. It's been used as an antidiarrheal. It's been used in delayed drug release delivery. Oh, because it can hold on to different things and release them, which is why we add the trace minerals and the vitamin C. It's got topical applications. It can be used as a decontaminant. Oh, it will decontaminate your body. It has benefits for hemodialysis. It'll clean your blood. Oh, wait a minute, it can be a vaccine adjuvant. Know anybody that has concerns about vaccines? It can help improve enzyme mimetics, right? So this will help mimic enzymes to improve bodily function, and it helps in bone formation. So you look at some of these benefits of bioavailable silica and what the purest form of clinoptilolite can provide, not just on the binding capability of this amazing little structure, but of the delivery of the bioavailable silica that we don't get enough of, that we really need to become amazing, right? So we've got that. We've got the imagery. You should have kind of an overview. So now let's look at some comparative analysis done third-party, completely independent, of looking at CleanSlate under a microscope of what these fragments look like. I'm going to go over just the quick letter that Bertie initially provided me in reviewing a couple other products. So we'll look at these really, really quickly. And we'll read through this because it's hilarious. And then we'll do a side-by-side comparison of some of these products and their images. And well, we'll see what we get here. So hold on. So this is the comparison. This is the review that I was sent initially in looking at a couple of the products. You can see Coseva, which is the TRS or the advanced TRS product, and PureBody, which is from Touchstone. And what's funny is both of these companies claim to be nano, right? And to be nano, you have to have fragments, the majority of fragments that are smaller than 100 nanometers in size. And we've gone over in the past that you actually don't want a nano product, right? Christina, in the creation of CleanSlate, but also in the creation of Restore and some of the other products, she uses some mechanisms of nanotechnology and bioscience engineering that she learned at Harvard. But CleanSlate is not a nano product, and either are these two, because you don't want fragments that are that small working throughout your system. You want a very large, vast range of sizes, so these fragments can go through your system. And if they're binders, like clinoptilolite is, in addition to the bioavailable silica, that they're able to work in multiple aspects. Maybe some of these would stay in your gut. Some of them can pass through the GI wall because of the vitamin C, because of the trace minerals and the pathways that are used for those trace minerals and the size of the fragments to move in and out. So they can get into your system and they can go different places, and they have different porous structures that can bind onto some of these. So what you see is that the part I found initially humoring was, so initially I was disappointed when she saw, this is her letter to me, that the size of the Coseva and PureBody products were larger than they claimed. So what that means is they lied. I love how the scientists do a really good job of saying, well, I don't know how to explain something that isn't truthful, so it's different from what they said. She won't come out and say, well, what they said is not what they're showing. And that's kind of what she stated. But science is all. And FDA approval, there's no FDA approval for clinoptilolite. Granted, clino is grass, generally regarded as safe as a food additive, but there are no zeolite products that are truly FDA approved because they're not drugs, right? But we'll look at the comparison of these two. And you've got some of her notes. She uses some humic and fulvic acids already, and one of the things that was important for her to look at was addressing some of her concerns. But we're going to look at some images that she took of these two products. You're welcome to send me an invite to your zeolite groups, which I'll be having a conversation with her that we can talk through this based on what she's seen to go over some of this imagery. But we'll look at a comparison of these. So this is some of the images, and I want you to look at the fragment sizes, but more importantly, when we're looking at some of these images and those that I'm going to pull up, is looking at the slides, look at the concentration. Look at the number of fragments in this space, because when we're analyzing the comparison in the zoom and the comparative size of fragments, right? We are going to be looking at images of multiple products, and most importantly, I want you to look at the comparison in volume of fragments in the image. Right? Because we can talk about range, and what you'll hear people talk about is, oh, well, smaller is better. Well, smaller or larger, we've touched on. But if you're going to pay for something, if you're going to pay good money, right, then concentration and volume, I would argue, is more important than size. Because what you don't want to get is just a bottle of water, right? If you were going to get this with a drop like this, one drop of these little fragments in a bottle of water like this, and you were going to spend $50 because someone said it was good for you, I would argue the value proposition of this. So what we're going to look at is size and concentration. So this is looking at 500 nanometers in size. And it's funny because this company with PureBody, right? These are the images that she took of the PureBody product, PureBody XL, their newest one that they talk about being so amazing, that they talk about being only a few nanometers in size. And this is a 500 nanometer range, right, that she's measuring. And she actually showed some of the imagery of these fragments and the size measurements. And they claim that this product is like 4 nanometers in size. And you can see that the images here of these fragments, there's some small ones here, but the majority are, you could say, in the 70 nanometer range. You can see what 20 nanometers looks like here, right? So that's 20 nanometers. This is 79 nanometers. I don't see anything that's much smaller than 20 nanometers, yet this company claims that the size of their fragments are like 4 to 5 nanometers, and it's on their site, yet the analytical chemistry says not so much. So we will go down here and to look at TRS, right? So this is 5, we'll go to the same thing. This is 1 micron in size. Again, don't just look at the size of the fragments. And the clear TRS product, the company claims to have a nano product as well, that their fragments are all like 4 to 5 to 6 to 10 nanometers in size range. And you can see what 33 and what 26 look like at 1 micron in size. Yeah, for a view, I don't see many that size, right? So it gives you a comparison. So now let's look at CleanSlate under a slide, and I'm going to pull up some additional analysis that were sent on the comparison of the competitive products. So what we'll do here and here. Let me see if we can do all 3 simultaneously. So we have this one. We'll drag there. Actually, let's stop a share. I'm going to minimize this one. So we're going to go side-by-side imagery of these two so we can compare. And before I do this, I'm going to line up everything so we have proper comparisons. To compare fragments. Okay, here we go. Thanks for bearing with me as we do this, because we're doing this live and we're trying to do as great as we can comparing. So now we should have both PDFs side by side. On the right, on my right, you can see the analysis of CleanSlate. On my left are product A, product B, and product C. And as I went through before, these were some of the images that you saw before of the Touchstone product. And so I know this was the Touchstone product based on the previous images that Birdie sent me. So you can see comparatively the size analysis here, same, 500 nanometers, 500 nanometers. So when you look at the comparison of fragment size, the one thing that I love, look at this little beast that's in the middle. And because of how we polarize it, notice energetically, this thing is so strong energetically that it actually pushes away other fragments from itself because of how we polarize this structure or these fragments. Each one of them energetically is a lot stronger than they are naturally. And you can see how this dude creates its own space around it. It's like it has its own world, and it's so strong energetically that it's just keeping its own field. But what you want to look at, like I was saying, compare what one micron or 1 angstrom. My terminology might be a little bit off. Here you can see the fragment sizes of the PureBody product, but see how many fragments are there in concentration. And the same goes here at 500 nanometers versus here. Do you see a difference? Look at this image with the number of fragments, the concentration of fragments versus the concentration of fragments here. There's a little bit of a discrepancy, right? Broad range of fragments and a whole lot more of them. And this is one of the reasons that you can take 1 drop of CleanSlate and start to get amazing benefits, because the concentration is so much higher, but functionality is completely different. Because when you look at these little guys, they're glowing. Look at the comparison from a light standpoint with what this guy shows versus what's over here. And just look at the sheer amount of fragments going through here comparatively, right? So there's one analysis. Then we look at product B. This could be the Zoi product, or the, let me see which one. It's either Clear TRS or Zoi Global. Those were the three products that are compared in this. But now let's look at the comparison of this. We'll go A first, and then we'll look at B. Side-by-side imagery, right? So you have a good amount of fragments here, and look at the comparisons in sizes. A little bit different, right? So you get 90 nanometers in size. And what's interesting is both of these products on the A images and B images claim to be nano in size, claim to be some of the smallest structures available. Yet when you compare, we have to look at the concentration, right? The fragment sizes vary pretty significantly, but look at the concentration. These aren't bad, but completely different. And then we zoom in a little bit more, and you can really see the difference in concentration, right? So you see, look at all of these fragments going through here and not so many fragments over here. Same size in view, right? Same measurement, completely different levels of concentration, which is important. And then we look at B, and I think we'll do the 1 nanometer comparison here. So we'll do this so you can see this a little better. This again is either Coseva's product, which is a synthetic aluminosilicate. It's not even clinoptilolite. One of these is a synthetic, which you should never put in your body. But you can see 1 and 1, the difference in comparison, right? So a little bit different. Which one would you want? I would want higher concentration, highest quality, and most importantly, best outcomes. And that is where CleanSlate really separates itself, is if you're looking at using CleanSlate, and maybe you've purchased some of these other products before or you've used them, that there are some amazing groups and lots of people like myself, right? I'm a consumer just as much as I am a formulator and a manufacturer and an owner. I too am a consumer. I've been fortunate for 16 years to be around this zeolite space and working with different clinoptilolite solutions, initially starting out with the product formulated by Harv Kaufman and Life Health Science that created the product for Wayora that Rick Deitch took the formula and the process for and brought it to Wayora. That was the initial product called Natural Cellular Defense. And that product, they changed the process so not to pay for licensing of that product, and they changed the process a little bit, which caused the product to not work as well. But the original solution created by Harv Kaufman, which is where the rest of the zeolite space actually came from, the only advancement done in this space is CleanSlate, right? Is this little guy. Because if you compare all of the other zeolite products, granted the one other one that adds vitamin C is the Zoi Global product, and that's because, well, they learned. But there's no real advancement. All of these other companies that are selling zeolite products are saying that they have clinoptilolite in water. If you want clinoptilolite in water and you want to do something really simple, go get a powder of clinoptilolite. You can find them online really inexpensively. You can get a tub of clinoptilolite. It's kind of actually, it is really expensive to get powdered clinoptilolite as a retail product because they charge about $49 for a tub of clinoptilolite powder. And you could take a little bit of that or like a scoop of it, put it in water and drink it. And you're getting a higher concentration of basically the same thing that they're putting in a small bottle. If you want something that is processed to unlock the capability of this amazing crystal, which is really what people want to pay for, is they want the outcomes, they want something that actually works systemically, not just really in the gut and getting a little bit of leaching across membranes, is you want something like this that has been processed, which we've touched on. The process is proprietary. It's patent pending. Christina's already got one patent issued. She's filed a few more that are pending on the process. And you want the highest quality ingredient to start with. That being what we start with, 97% pure clino, 3% bentonite with a massive amount of bioavailable silica. You want that quality of raw. And then you want the process to have a product that's doing what no product has done before. That is what separates CleanSlate from the rest of the zeolite space in this industry, because it's in a class of its own, right? You have basically a bunch of go-karts that are claiming that they use powdered clinoptilolite and make this clinoptilolite in water solution. And then you have the performance Model S Tesla that is a higher level of performance than any other product ever made. Do your own work. Thanks for joining me.